do you feel about the school community, and what do you think should be changed about it?
Well, I think that we're definitely at an advantage at basic high school because there is a sense of community here. You know, the school's been open for a long time, so not out of the realm of possibility for students to be like second, maybe even third generation students here. So that in and of itself helps build a sense of community in our school. All you have to do is go to a homecoming game, and you can see that our stands are probably more full than many other schools are. But I think there's no such thing as a school that can't always improve in one way or the other, not to the least of which would be community. So I think as far as a sense of community, if that's what you're asking about, in basic high school, we have a pretty good sense of community.
What do you think students can do to improve their performance in school?
Take personal responsibility for their own achievement, because a lot of times when students get to high school, it's not really their fault all the time. They're still in the mindset that they're earning good grades and they're trying to achieve the best they can for someone else. In other words, if I get low grades, I'm going to be put on restriction. If I get low grades, I'm going to lose my Xbox. But the quicker a student realizes that the real reason why consequences like that exist is because grades really are shaping their own lives and their own goals. And so the sooner they take personal responsibility for their own achievement, they have that little aha moment where they realize, well, this is my future that I'm actually shaping. I'm the one who will be walking in my shoes for the next 50 years of my life. The better off we're going to be.
Do you think you have a certain teaching style? If so, what would it be?
I don't know about certain. I think sometimes I can be sort of random as far as a teacher is concerned. I try to be approachable. I try to be positive because certainly we live in a day and age now where attention spans may have gone down a little bit because we all walk around with little computers in our pocket all the time. And at the end of the day, students appreciate mutual respect. They appreciate being treated like adults as much as possible. And so I try to be a little more outgoing, and I at least try to be as approachable as I possibly can. So teaching style-wise, maybe a little more scattered, than some teachers are. Like I know there's some teachers that are very rigid in their procedures. Every day will start this way, that way, this way. We have our kickoffs and whatnot, but I kind of like to be a little more spontaneous about it. I try to get a feel for how the students are feeling in the room, and if it feels like I'm losing all of them, if that means I need to change course, I'll change course.
Do you feel that you teach lessons that are relative to life?
Well, that's where I'm really lucky because biology is the study of life, and we're all completely biological organisms, so it's actually quite difficult for me to teach or even be prescribed content that wouldn't be completely relevant to a student in their life. So, if anything, a lot of times I have to remind students when they're asking me questions that I'm not a doctor and I can't really give them like medical advice and whatnot, but at least in my class, I very seldom ever heard, what has this got to do with me? Why do I have to learn this? When am I going to use this in life? That's not really 70 years of biology, so that's good.
What do you think is the main reason our graduation rate is so low?
I think it's a variety of factors. It's a very complicated thing that doesn't have a simple answer because students at the end of the day are individuals, and I think you'd have to look at every single student individually to understand why they may be suffering as far as grade point average is concerned. There's certainly, as educators, we do everything in our power to boost that graduation rate and help students any way we can, but I think one problem with our education system sometimes is we're striving to find that one blanket answer that will apply to all students. We even give standardized tests that we think are a way to assess students, I guess holistically, and you can't do that. I don't have the answer to this problem, but students at the end of the day, all Homo sapiens are individuals, and there might be individual reasons for them achieving or not achieving. Sure, socioeconomic status can play a role, and sure, a lot of times too, what's going on at home absolutely has a major impact on how a student achieves, but if you actually try to come up with something that will cater to every single student as a blanket whole, I think it's kind of difficult to do.
What do you think are the most important skills in order to be an effective teacher?
I think that a lot of times people think that knowledge of your content is probably the most important skill, but that actually isn't as far as I'm concerned. You have to be able to relate to students, and I don't mean relate by becoming their friend. Students definitely don't need a friend in their teacher, But if you can at least try to remember what it was like when you were a student, you know, and try to remember what it was like walking through the halls of a school as a freshman or a sophomore, junior, senior, and then try to put yourself, have that empathy, to put yourself in their shoes and see things from their own perspective, you're going to be much more effective if you can do that. Because a lot of times I think that, and I can see why this happens, you get so far detached from when you yourself were a high school student that you only see things from your own perspective, your own lens. I think just as a general human trait, the more you can actually put yourself in someone else's shoes, the better off everyone is going to be. I think there's a word for that. English teachers would probably call it like empathy or something like that. I think it's very important.
Okay, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
How do you feel about the school community? What do you think should be changed about it?
I like the school community a lot. I think that you have a really good staff here that all my interactions have been really positive, and I think that it's a welcoming environment. I think that people outside of basic have ideas about what goes on here, but you actually attend school here. I think the students and everybody have been pretty friendly to each other. I think that there's a good academic policy in place, and it is my second year at Basic, and I've seen the changes that have been made through different policies, and I think that's been a really great environment.
What do you think students can do to improve their performance in school?
I think that from what I hear from a lot of other my colleagues are missing work. I think just basically just getting the work in and doing it. I think a lot of people get hung up on the fact that, you know, why do I need to do this, or why is this important? Well, for the rest of your life, you're going to have deadlines, and you're going to have things that will be due, whether a paper or not. And high school is just as equal what you learn as like the method that you do to complete your work. So just getting work in and completing the work and putting forth the effort is going to be the big, probably, thing that will improve grades.
Do you think you have any certain teaching style? If so, what would it be?
Well, I'm a music teacher, so I get to, it's a very performance-based class. Participation is important for me, and so if I don't have participation, then I don't have anything going on. I think some teachers can get away with, relying heavily on homework and teaching concepts, and maybe it's not as interactive as a subject. My teaching style is just every day I just want the best version of the child. I want the best student that can be. So every day is about really encouraging the students to play out, creating an environment that's really safe for them and they feel confident to play.
Do you feel that you teach lessons that are relative to real life?
Absolutely. It's just an orchestra. You're not going to carry around your violin and solve problems all day with the Superman cape. But I think what you can do is you can apply that knowledge of just working hard at something or achieving things. It's very similar to construction in the fact that if you practice your instrument and you can hear and you can see the difference in just what that day's worth of work has done. Same with construction is you can look back at the end of the day and see what you have made. And I think orchestra provides a great feeling. It's something that there are more orchestra jobs than there are musicians right now. And the world needs these musicians to keep tradition alive and keep, just a whole culture going.
What do you think is the main reason our graduation rate is so low?
I think students not understanding that missing work, just getting it on time. Again, it's what most of my colleagues talk about, is if the students would just put in that work and get it in. I think that has a lot to do with it. I've seen some attendance issues that in my own classes that I would like to see improve and get better. But I think that the biggest reason why our graduation rate is so low is I think students waste a lot of time and energy their freshman and sophomore years and don't develop those good habits of studying, don't understand that whatever credits they're losing, those are very difficult to make up, and once you get pegged as a student that is not going to do their work, or you get pegged as a lazy student, life just gets tougher from there because teachers talk and students talk, and it's really hard to shake an image if you waste those first couple years. So starting early in freshman year and passing those classes, using your time wisely, that is a huge, huge thing because it's the credit deficient kids that don't graduate, and it's usually from those first 2 years that they have trouble making up credits.
What do you think are the most important skills in order to be an effective teacher?
The most important skills, I think you got to be really encouraging the students. Like I said, creating that safe environment where they don't feel stupid asking a question, or in my class where they don't feel stupid playing out or having a solo. And just a place where kids, you know, they're not afraid to fail. And I think that is, creating that environment is the most important thing. And then holding students to a really high standard. Don't drop down the standards to meet this. You meet a lazy student's level. Try to force them to come up to meet it.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.